everybody, welcome back. I'll move my mic here a little closer. That's pretty good. Taking a look at the Crow today. This is the 1994 Crow. Should be evident with Brandon Lee here, not the most recent one. And this is the 4K edition in the Steelbook. Excuse me. And I think this is a pretty cool Steelbook design here. So the slipcover is transparent. If I were to take this off here. Oh yeah, of course, Brandon Lee, Out for Vengeance, and I don't think, let's see, is there anything on the back of this? No, so that's kind of interesting. I was surprised. This must have had a J card, and who knows what I did with it, but, so really, well, not blank, but nothing on the back, but, and then we go and take a look at the back here. Okay, so it has the flaming crow, and after he dispatches T-Bird, and open this up. We got a digital code here. I haven't actually taken this out yet. And what is this? A Legacy of Horror Reanimated. Oh, that's right. Paramount has some packaging their 4K releases in these Paramount Scares, I guess, is the bundle. There was another one that came out just recently. It has some movies that haven't had individual releases, like what's that Kurt Russell movie? His wife's abducted. They're like in Arizona or Nevada or something. Oh man, what's the name of that movie? It's really good. I can just draw a blank now. But that's in there, and not in this one, but yeah, Rosemary's Baby, Pet Cemetery, Crawl and Smile. These have all had individual releases. I don't know if this is the original Pet Cemetery or the remake. But no, I don't have this. I do have Rosemary's Baby. I do have Crawl. And is there another movie here? Oh, right, Sweeney Todd. Yeah, so this one came out. Sweeney Todd was not available. The rest of them were. But now you can just buy Sweeney Todd. So. And this just comes with 4K. It doesn't have a Blu-ray with it, which isn't a big deal to me, but I know for some people they want to have the combo. And this has the art here. There we go. Not too bad. Pretty nice. So, go ahead and snap that in. And take this out. Go back to Brandon Lee here. I gotta get tracing sounds here. No, these super smooth steels. They don't get much of a trace sound. Maybe I can trace the paper. I kind of like tracing sounds. And yeah, do that over here. Scratching the paper. But recently I watched this like just a month ago or so. I had my friend visiting and we were looking for a movie to watch. She hadn't seen this since high school. I'd seen it since then. I pretty much weared out my VHS tape of this when I was a kid. As in, like, I'd have been like 13 or so when this came out. Is that right? Yeah, something like that. And This was one of the first DVDs I purchased as well. I remember this having kind of like a weird clamshell case for DVD. Like there was a clasp on it, if I remember correctly. It was kind of like a digipack. I don't know if they still make those, but so I was really looking forward to the 4K release, and it didn't disappoint in the sense of presentation. But what did disappoint was when I watched the movie with my friend who hadn't seen it in like 30 years. He thought it was lame. He really didn't like it. He said he didn't feel it held up at all. He remembered liking it when he was a teenager, but didn't care for it whatsoever. Fortunately, I was watching it. My wife was watching it too, so it was all three of us were just watching the movie. So she kind of, but I hadn't realized at the time, but she was being a buffer of sorts to his, I imagine, incessant quips throughout. So I wasn't able. Well, fortunately, he wasn't able to comment throughout the movie because I'm like, hey, just shut up, man. I like this movie, but I probably wouldn't have said shut up, but. I had seen this movie so many times that I could have handled commentary throughout, and I would be able to, refute him just due to the fact he's clearly wrong because this movie kicks ass. But yeah, he didn't care for it at all. I was really surprised. I thought going back to it when there was a large gap of time between the last time I watched it and when the 4K release, like probably like 15 years or so, 10 years maybe. Or tell nowadays, 10, 15 years, they go by so quickly. But yeah, I think this movie definitely holds up. I would absolutely recommend it to anyone. But especially, if you're like an impressionable teenager, especially maybe like an angsty one. I mean, when this came out, like I was big into Nine Inch Nails, like Pretty Hate Machine, Broken. Those were, constantly in my Discman. And The Cure, Disintegration was one of the most incredible albums I had ever heard, and I still is. Jesus and Mary Chain, even some of the heavier stuff like Helmet. Like when this soundtrack came out, when I knew the soundtrack for the movie, it was like my dream soundtrack. And then of course the movie, being amazing, was just, I don't want to say that was the icing on top. I didn't see the movie for the soundtrack, but everything just kind of coalesced into this experience for me. And I don't know if it's difficult if you weren't there or you didn't realize, how important that music was, to someone at the time, and seeing it on the screen with this character was just something else. And now I'm actually doubting myself if this came out. I think this came out in 1994. I don't have any dates in front of me here, so is there a date on the disc? 1994. Okay, yeah, there's a date on the disc. So that makes sense. And I can't remember. I think I would have seen Rapid Fire before this movie. That feels right to me. And I was one of those kids. I was in the video store constantly. I really enjoyed renting movies, and I love Jean-Claude Van Damme movies, Steven Seagal, Sylvester Stallone. And I grew up in the 80s, and there was just a lot of action movies. And at that point, I really hadn't had any experience with like Hong Kong action movies. Like those movies being available in a rental store just hadn't happened yet. It was only a few years later. So like the first John Woo movie I watched was Hard Target, which came out in 95, I think. And there's some action scenes in this, especially like one of the shootouts, to me is very Hong Kong inspired. I think that the dual gunplay and just the way the action is framed. I don't know if I should have checked the choreographer. I don't know if there's any crossover there, but so when I saw this movie, I really wasn't exposed to too many action movies that had those types of scenes, and it really blew me away. And Brandon Lee, this movie has characters in it that you can kind of consider disposable, but they're sketched out well enough that you feel that if you were to spend time with them throughout the day, not that you would want to because they're they're bad dudes and what have you, but they're all like really distinct, and they all kind of die poetically in regards to like Tintin with his knives and Fun Boy with his overdose, T-Bird, the flaming wreckage of his car, and I can't remember the name of the boss in this. I'm trying to remember the actor's name, but he has really incredible hair. So is Brandon Lee, actually. And his number two is played by Tony Todd. And the mob boss kind of feels like the one with like the ambition. But Tony Todd, you can kind of see his character as the one that makes sure it all works. Like the quiet demeanor. And who else shows up in this? What's his name? John Polito, I think. He's in a lot of Coen Brothers movies. He's the PI trying to find the Knutsons in Big Lebowski. He's in more Coen Brothers movies than that. So after his failed, Knutson case, I guess he becomes a pawn shop owner in The Crow, and even his brief time, he's a pretty enjoyable character, and Brandon Lee has a really amusing line before he sets fire to his establishment. I'm kind of spoiling some things in this movie, but I don't really think so. I mean, maybe if you haven't seen it, I don't think what I'm saying now is going to take anything away. So, yeah, this movie is one of those movies where everything just worked. I didn't even get into like the production. Like, this has an incredibly well realized city. It seemed like it's constantly raining, even though it's not, but it's raining a lot. But the streets, the architecture, it feels like a place that you can walk around and you don't necessarily really want to spend too much time in. And what I really like about Eric Draven as a character, is a surprising amount of empathy in his performance. Like, I really do think, like, Brandon Lee was still, honing his acting chops. I think this is like truly only his second movie, but he's very magnetic performance. Like, you can kind of see that this guy was going to be like an action star, and his approach to it was a lot different than what you see with like the Van Dams and the Segals at the time. And there was again, like an empathetic aspect to his character, and then the fact his physicality, just like the way he would hop on a table and cross his legs midair. He doesn't do much in the way of martial arts in this, but he bats away a knife that is thrown at his face, and there's some little flourishes like that, and so you wouldn't think, oh, this is definitely the son of Bruce Lee due to all the martial arts in this movie. It's not that type of action movie, but when you watch it, you think, oh man, this guy's going to be like an action star, and maybe he would develop into someone that branches off into different types of roles and what have you. Of course, we all know what happened to Brandon Lee, so it's really tragic, but this movie, from a 4K presentation, looks astonishing. Like, the grain is really resolved really well. There's a lot of depth in the blacks, and this is a really dimly lit movie. It's a very dark movie, I should say. So when there is like fire on the screen, it looks fantastic. It does have a nice Atmos track, and the soundtrack is really front and center at times. It's not overwhelming, but you're definitely getting the vibe of the songs. I really can't say enough good things about this. So if you haven't seen The Crow, the original one, I highly recommend it. And if you have seen it, you're kind of on the fence for the 4K for a reason, don't be. This is definitely something to put in your collection. It's a really great look and presentation, both for audio and video as well. So thanks for watching.